Hey guys, Trevor here. Welcome to another episode of the Who Are We podcast. Today I got special guest Natalie. Natalie, how are we today?
Good. Coming in from the other side of the planet.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We just do a quick disclosure before we get started. We're recording this session and we might post it on YouTube and do some promotional stuff on LinkedIn or whatever, but generally we're just here to talk about identity and just having general conversations, just to demonstrate it's okay to talk about ourselves and to try to explore, who we are and what we do, and it's okay, and just hopefully try to encourage other people to explore who they are and hopefully create some better outcomes in society. So nothing too stressful or nothing too strenuous, just out to have a conversation. So I'd like to thank you for joining us, and we might just get straight into it. Who is Natalie and what does she stand for?
Who is Natalie? So this is such a big question. That's why I was interested about your podcast, Trevor. We have so many identities, and I have many. Right now, I'm a parent coach that I specialize working with parents that are trying to co-parent, that, have had some communication difficulties. But I've been a single mother myself for 16 years. I've written a book for parents. I've been a school teacher of elementary school kids for 30 years. I've been a daughter. I've been orphaned. Both my parents passed away 25 years ago. I am a business owner of a childcare business. So there's, so many parts and pieces of my identity and who I am. One of the biggest roles that I've had is being a mother. And I really like to talk about that because a lot of mothers really get just consumed by that role, right? I mean, who am I other than a mother? Because you kind of lose yourself in parenting, especially during certain times. You don't kind of know where to go or who you are, because everything in your life is about your children, right? So my children now are 18 and 20, and I'm just kind of realizing that myself, that holy moly, where was I there, right? Like I kind of lost myself for a bit, right? And I'm just kind of rediscovering, what do I like to eat? What do I like to watch on television that doesn't involve the children, right? And that's one of the things that I really work with parents with, is getting back to that identity of who you are as a person before you had kids, because that person is only going to serve your kids. That is only going to be better for your kids than trying to be this perfect parent, which, by the way, does not exist. Right? So to me, that's really an important piece in the parenting journey, is to don't lose yourself. Don't give up your passions. Don't let go of that person of who you really are deep inside. You want your child to see that in you, right? You want them to see you being your true, authentic self, so that then they will become their true, authentic selves.
Thanks for sharing that, Natalie. It sounds like to me, even though you've got lots of different roles, you're trying to separate what you're doing to who you are in some ways, and especially in roles as a mother, as your kids are growing up. And it's quite interesting, you should say, that, because a lot of the difficulties that I've been talking to women about is when it comes to empowerment and being the best they can be, is generally putting their kids first before their own health and before their own thing, because they feel that that's their responsibility, and trying to say that you're going to have the best result for your kids by being the best version of yourself. Sometimes it's like a conflict in their mind. It feels like you're saying something similar to that strategy.
Yeah, so really, it's important to take care of yourself. This, self-care. I'm not talking about bubble baths and pedicures, but I'm talking about setting boundaries and taking time for yourself and developing your passions as a person. It's really important for our children to see that.
Yeah, especially boundaries. Like even as a man, it's very difficult for me to say no. And empathy of women is generally much higher than that of men, generalising it. But I found it difficult to say no when my project boss or my supervisor or something asked more of me and this and that, and it's very hard to do that. Do you find boundary setting it difficult, especially when you've got kids as well, I suppose, asking you to do stuff and you just want to help them out and help them be it? That could, especially 30 years as an elementary teacher, there's probably a lot of kids trying to push your boundaries, was it?
Yeah, they don't get very far. Trevor, this hair used to be red, so no, they didn't mess with Natalie. But I mean, they're kind and they're loving boundaries, right? Because when you set those boundaries and you don't allow people to walk all over you, then you don't have that feeling of resentment and anger, and you're cranky because you're just those feelings. You don't have those feelings. Yes, it can be uncomfortable for a minute, right? To say no, but you have to remember why you're doing that. Why are you setting that boundary? For your own mental health, your own physical health. It's for your own sanity, to feel better and not be overwhelmed, right? And not feel resentful. So it takes some practice for sure. Cheryl Richardson wrote a really great book called The Art of Extreme Self-Care. And, it's a short, nice little read. And she does have, different chapters about how to set those boundaries, how to say no, how to, have other people assist you in your life so that you have more time to take care of yourself. Like, again, I said, no, not the bubble baths, right? Everybody thinks, I don't have time for bubble. Not all about that, right? It's about our health as a whole person.
Yeah, so I just jotted down some of the things you said here, like a parent coach, so obviously working with people to become navigate through their co-parenting, because as a single parent, you got it. So you're helping other people manage parenting together, but living apart, I suppose.
Yes.
Is that what that means? Yeah. Okay. From your experience as a single mother, but also you talk about businesses as childcare and a lot of these other things. So it sounds like there's a lot of juggling going on, and you are able to manage that, obviously through creating boundaries.
Yes,
to be able to juggle them balls, isn't it? Do you think?
Yes. Well, it's funny. I find I'm a lot less busy now because my children are now pretty much adults. I'm kind of rolling like I'm a consultant now. That's what I say, right? Like, I'm here if you need me, right? When they were younger, yes, there was a serious amount of juggling because it would be, I like to home cook meals. Then it's the driving around to soccer and dance and drama and, all the activities. So when those activities came out and I don't have to cook a home cooked meal every night, literally, Trevor, I was a little bored. I was like, what am I should be doing something right now. Why am I not doing something right now? Right. So yeah, now the pace is much more relaxed. And with the parent coaching, I can get to set my own schedule, which as a school teacher for 30 years, my life was ruled by a bell.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you got to be at school at this time, whatever. So, I'm really enjoying this. I like to have a lot to do, I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting that you should say that, because there is a lot of that guilt. Like even me, as in my roles and what I do, but if I got some spare time or some, I just got a dog trying to break into the office here. It's a bit of stretching the dog, but if I got a bit of spare time up my sleeve or relax a bit or something, I feel guilty, having us, sit in front of TV or whatever. But you experienced that a bit now, but now after a bit of getting used to in control a bit more of your life with a bit less pressure through some of the things you do, you feel that you got that under control and you don't feel so guilty anymore.
Not one bit. Not one bit.
Yeah.
Like, we don't get heat waves much in Canada.
Yeah.
So if we're getting one in a couple of days, I'm rearranging my schedule so I can get to the beach, because I don't know when I'll get to the beach again for the next number of weeks, right? So, but to have that flexibility is beautiful, and I appreciate it. So, and I take that time to take care of my mental health. I meditate, I journal. I'm really grateful to have that time to do that.
Yeah. And is that something that you advocate when you're doing your parenting coaching, or when you're talking to these parents when it comes to co-parenting, is trying to be the best version of themselves so the kids can see the parents setting an example? Is it something that you're trying to achieve? Is it, or
Absolutely. It's so important. With all of my clients, they come to me with either, because I coach all parents on any issue, but my niche kind of is the co-parenting, and they come to me and they have an issue with the child, but we do talk about all aspects of their life, right? Like we talk about what is your self-care practices, how you're able to set boundaries, right? What are your goals in your professional life? Because, as human beings, as we know, there are all of these aspects to ourselves. So we can't just pick one and say, oh, we're just going to focus on this. It's a whole, families are living systems, so every piece is important. And a lot of times it does come down to the parent looking inside at their parenting identity and their self-care, and even just making small little changes kind of has a ripple effect throughout the whole system.
So it's like a holistic approach.
Absolutely.
Where you're looking at personal lives and business lives, and because a lot of the things with mental health, a lot of the guys and a lot of girls on these sort of podcast shows and that talk about how a lot of things are interconnected, like your diet and your exercise routine, or your fitness levels, and you're getting outdoors and that sort of stuff is all interlinked to making the good mental health outcomes. And one of them was, as well as your relationship. So I suppose having good positive relationships with your children, and even your spouse or your ex-spouse, even though you might be living together and might not work out as an intimate relationship, but trying to find a way to coexist for the greater good of that, like you say, the golden ripples in that life, I suppose, is probably one way of putting it. But do you find that can be hard to manage these sometimes? Or?
Sometimes. I mean, I do have some challenging situations, but I coach the parents separately. Yeah. So we each have our own relationship, and I look at each parent's parenting style, and and I help them with communication, right? Depending on the age of the child, if the child is very young, then I have a specific communication journal where they don't have to talk to each other about what's going on with the kid. They can write it all down, right? And send it back and forth. I just had some clients where, I got them both to write a very open, vulnerable, short email to each other. And the subject line is what I want you to know about me, right? So there's a million different ways depending on the situation of how I can help them get just some better communication, because they love their kid, right? So, I always bring them back to that. What are we doing this for? We're doing this for your child, right? So.
Yeah, and communications would be a very important part of that. So if that's not working well, like you say, come up with the strategies to get that to work well, would create better outcomes for everybody. Yeah. And I'd imagine that if that's working well, or you're helping them through that communication stages, then that has a ripple effect through the other elements of their life as well. So then they can become better at work because they're not stressed about this and that. You know what I mean? So if they find that, that's cool. And the other thing I was curious about when it comes to parenting style and how these things are working, is that more of an impact on or an effect on how they were raised, or how their parents treated them, or is it something that's a little bit?
I would say it's connected for sure, right? Yeah. But then, every situation, every family, every parent is different. Yeah. Through when my coaching training, my professor came up with, 4 basic styles of parenting that are kind of based on personality. But, the different situations, some people, they parent exactly how they were raised. Then you have the other side of the coin where people say, I am not doing that.
I'm not like my mother.
I'm not going to be like my mother. right? So people go opposite. So the parenting, there's 4 parenting styles so I was trained through the Parent Coaching Institute in the United States, and 4 different parenting styles are that we work with are practicality and results. So parents that, right? And there's benefits and challenges to each of these, keep in mind. What's another one? Care and nurture, parenting style. Reason and expectation is another one. And I'm having a 4th one. Where is it? It's here. It's right behind me. Reason and expectation. Well, I do personal guidance. There it is.
Yeah.
So
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. Well, I use them a lot. They're checklists, right, that I give to parents, so they can reflect, right, on kind of how their styles, because these 2 parents, usually, even parents that are still together in the same house, have different parenting styles. So I want them, it really helps them understand where the other one's coming from, right? So if you have a care and nurture parent and a practicality and results parent, right?
Yeah.
Their focus is on different things in situations.
Yeah.
So when parents understand that, they can sit back and say, okay, that's why this parent's acting like that, because their focus is care and nurture, right? And then the other one can realize, oh, they're being a bit more strict or, steadfast because they want practical results, right?
Yeah.
So it just helps. That understanding will help the communication.
Yeah, and I suppose that understanding comes from communication too. So you say it helps the communication, but it also comes from communication. I suppose that's where some people get stuck, because it's, it's a chicken and egg thing, I suppose. When
it is.
You put it like that, So, that's cool. So, thanks for sharing all that. It sounds like you're doing amazing work and important work too, because I suppose children and how they are raised, and if we can raise them in such a way that they aren't traumatized or conflicted, and if they're not hurtful or filled with hate or whatever, which is probably everyone's goal, but sometimes it doesn't work out. But if we can try and raise children to be respectful and and trauma free in safe environments, so I suppose there's better outcomes for everybody. So it's a good area to be in.
I do believe that. It sounds cheesy, Trevor, but I do believe that's how we change the world. We start with them right here, building that emotional intelligence, building, those neural pathways for, as you say, for empathy and kindness. And we do that by giving them outlets to be creative, right? To develop their own inner world, their own identity. There's just, to me, it's the most important thing in the world.
And I suppose it must be very passionate about it. 30 years of teaching, because it's a similar thing with the kids at school, isn't it? When they're school age or whatever, and being that sort of having that sort of role for so long, you must be very passionate about that and about that molding, I suppose, isn't it? Molding the future, isn't it? Really. So it's so that's amazing, and it is quite inspiring to hear you work with children and with the parents to get the better outcomes for the children. And you're the probably first one that I've had on talking about that. It's quite great. So and I'd like to thank you for the few pointers and that you got. But you did mention about losing your parents a couple of decades ago or whatever. Obviously it's not that fresh. And you recovered emotionally from it, but how did that shape you towards parenting styles? Because obviously, you lost yours and obviously had a big impact, and it probably still does. But did that help inspire you for people that the kids that have a good parent? Did that help? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, it rocked my world, Trevor. But they both died of cancer at age 50 and 53. And so I just turned 50 last year. So, it's kind of like, but my parents were wonderful. Father was a teacher, mother was a nurse, right? Just everything was fine until it wasn't. Until I became the one to look after them through these illnesses. But it rocked my world when I had my own children. I was 30, and I thought I knew what I was doing, because I had at this point been teaching for 10 years. Not a clue, Trevor. Did not have a clue. I read every book under the sun, trying to figure this out, and not having my parents there as that support. It was really, really difficult. But what it did do was it really brought me to a different spiritual path, right, for my mental health, because I was, I was raised in, Christian religion. And when tragedies like that happen just back to back, I went to my church and I'm like, so listen, what's up with this? Right? Like, I said, was I Genghis Khan in another life or something? Like, what? Like, can you give me something here, bud? Right? And he was like, I got nothing, Natalie. I said, okay, bud. Hasta la vista. Oh, exit stage left. I have to go down a different path, and just started reading different books, and that spiritual life, that was amazing and that's what I kind of used through my early years of parenting, is kind of going with my instincts, going with my gut. I mean, I had a few friends that helped with, the littles, but for the most part, I just kind of went with my gut, and I studied them like I was a scientist. Because I was so interested in their brain development, and when they were learning things, because as a teacher for so many years, like, I'm watching them with the blocks.
What's going to work with this?
Their little mind right now, right? Like, to me, it was just the most interesting thing in the world.
I found my youngest now is 21 and he's 22. I found that probably now if I had kids, I'd probably have a bit better of a chance. Like, it just seems like such a, like, if I had, like you say, a little bit of guidance 20 years ago, I probably could have had a better outcomes with my children, but starting to learn about it now, it does seem a bit late, but the more survived it and got through it, but it just seems to be that there is no manual for these kids, and the work that you do, I feel everyone could benefit from, I feel it.
Yeah, Trevor, because there's a ton of books out there. Like, I've read half of them. They're here behind me. Yeah. But what I promote is that there is no one way. If those people that have more than one child, you can't parent them both the same, because they're completely different people. Right? So, what I do is kind of build on the parents' strengths that they already have and help them. It's like a co-creative. So I wanted to make that distinction between coaching and consultant. I'm not a consultant. I don't sit down and tell you what to do, even though some parents want that. But no, this is a co-creation, right? The coaching is a co-creation based on positive psychology. We use an appreciative inquiry approach, and we create together the solutions for whatever's happening. And my goal is that, when we're done, the parent knows their strengths as a parent, knows their parenting style, knows their personality style of their child, so they don't have to come back to me next year, right? I want to give them the tools to be able to get through those challenging situations using their own strengths, not with Natalie saying, well, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. How many people even listen to that anyway? Nobody likes being told what to do. I don't.
It gives them a little bit of ownership on it too, doesn't it? Like, if
absolutely,
advice giving, like you say, is not really, I suppose, if you're in finance or something like that, but when it comes to emotions and that, like you say, because you've got the parenting style, you've got them as a human that's totally unique and individual, then you've got the kid that's totally unique and individual, and the relationship with their partner, which is totally unique and individual. So it's got to be worked out.
It's all a living system, and the parts are constantly moving, right? They're constantly moving, from week to week between my appointments with. Last week we were talking about screen time. Next week, well, this blew up at school, so right. I mean, it's a living system, but it's a very big switch from what I had been doing teaching in a classroom. But I really, really enjoy it. I really like having these one-on-one conversations instead of trying to have 5 at one time in a grade 4 classroom.
And is it mainly do you get to go out and see face to face, or mainly on the internet screens like this? Or
I'm doing mainly on the Zoom calls right now. Just mainly because office space. You're right. Like my kids are still at home, so having people come to my house, like it's a private sort of thing. So I have my little room here, and I have headphones for those meetings to keep the privacy for my clients. Right. And I gotta say, Trevor, I like to get out of Canada in the winter because it's cold here.
Yeah, I keep imagining like polar bears trying to eat you or something. I'm not sure.
No. We're not that big, but it does gets cold. January, February, March, April is just
come to Queensland. Queensland, no better place than Queensland, that's for sure.
Australia's definitely on my bucket list. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's very good, and I can see the passion in your eyes and that when you talk about it, and it's such amazing work that you're doing, and I really appreciate all you're doing, because I feel people with passion doing wonderful things, engaging in these right sort of activities do change the world. And I do agree with you that it does start with having raising a trauma-free child that doesn't have baggage and is respectful and shows empathy and all these little things. And they seem like small things when we're talking about them, but they can become big things. So they grow up and they're setting that example for the next generation, and it just get better and better rather than spiraling out of control. It seems to
absolutely.
So thanks very much for sharing your passion and sharing your voice on the. I feel it'd be a lot beneficial for the audience. Is there any last final bits of advice or final words you'd like to express?
If you're a parent out there, I'd like you to remove the guilt, realize that there is no such thing as a perfect parent. Take care of yourself first. It's like the oxygen mask, right? Take care of yourself, build your passions, and let your child see you do that. So they'll do it too. Because I think if everybody's walking around in the world doing their passion, acting on it, then that's just going to bring so much joy and so much love and so much to the world. So that would be my advice to parents right now. Yeah, take care of yourself.
And that metaphor is about flying, isn't it? That altitude when the plane hits turbulence and the oxygen mask drops and can't help anyone else until you secure the oxygen on yourself. So yeah, that's a very good reminder about that. So. Thanks very much, and don't be Australian. Hopefully we can catch up again and have further discussions in the future. And
absolutely.
And if anyone, how do people contact you if they want to have a talk to you about parenting styles, or is that something?
Sure. So, I have a website. It's www.nataliemccabe.com. So it's just my name. And so on there, I have some freebies, on self-care or co-parenting communication. I'm also, my book is at the publisher right now, but if anybody's interested, you can download the chapter 1 for free and keep updated for when that'll be coming out, probably later this year.
Excellent. That's amazing. Good work. Yeah. No, are you on LinkedIn or anything like that? Or you on?
Oh, yes. I'm on the LinkedIn. I'm on the Facebook. I'm on the Instagram.
And you don't mind people just texting you or
DM me on the social media for sure. I'm newer to that because as a teacher for 30 years, they told us don't post on social media. You're not allowed. Right? Well, there's two sides to that. The first side is I'm freaked out on doing videos on social media. You'll hardly see any, right? This is why I'm having conversations on podcasts, because I just like to talk to people, not a camera. But I have the cleanest social media profile since it came out. I've never posted a bad word or anything because I was so scared, and having teachers and parents and, children on my social media. I was like, I have to be really good here. No arguments on Facebook, right? Never have I.
And that's one of the things I suppose that I'm a bit passionate about. It's okay to be human. It's okay to make mistakes. And it's okay to talk about who you are and what you want to achieve. I feel that conversation is a bit of a taboo thing, I feel that's one of the reasons why I like talking about identity. Have these real conversations with people like you that like you say, it's a better to have to talk to someone than nothing, or a camera. At least then you can have a little bit of back and forth and bounce some ideas off people and that. But I feel that you sharing your story and sharing about your fear, your taboo about not sharing and getting into the social media could create better results. Instead of using social media or using these technology that we got for negative things, if we can try and do some more positive things, I feel the world will be a better place too. So thank you for having the courage to talk to me today and sharing your views and sharing all the wonderful things you do, and hopefully we can catch up again in the future.
For sure. Thanks, Trevor.
No worries. Thank you. See you. Bye.